Hey everyone, this is Nick. Today I'm going to be giving you 3 tips on how to start playing solo guitar. If you've seen any of my videos before, you'll notice that I play a lot of solo guitar, and that's something that I've been practicing a lot throughout the past few years because I'm really into the guitar trio format. And naturally, to be able to accompany yourself in a guitar trio format, you kind of have to have some degree of solo guitar playing in your fingers. Not to mention, with the coronavirus pandemic, we can't really interact as much anymore with other people, so I kind of dove in and started really getting into playing solo guitar. So today I'm going to be giving you my 3 basic tips in order to start playing solo guitar and the things that really helped me along the way. If you're interested in seeing more educational videos, check out my YouTube channel. You'll find a bunch of different tutorials on different things guitar related and music related in general. And please consider subscribing to check out the videos as they are released. So let's get into it. So for today's tip, I'm going to be using the jazz standard Like Someone in Love, and I'm going to be using it throughout this video in order to demonstrate some of the things I'm going to talk about. So the first tip is being able to play the melody and a bass line at the same time. Ideally, when you're starting out, you want to pick something medium tempo, maybe even a ballad, but nothing too fast, so that way you can kind of diversify what you're playing. For this, let's start off with the bass line and half notes, and I'm going to be thinking about the roots and fifths of the chords. You can add in any other notes and you can get really creative with it, but let's start with that. It's also important to play the melody how you would on a gig or if you were a singer, and not like as if you read it off of a real book. You want to play it organically, so that way you don't sound too mechanical. So with that, I'm trying to be consistent as possible, keeping the half note pulse in the bass line while I'm playing the melody relatively freely. So that one you can diversify the rhythm. I played with half notes, but you can play half notes, quarter notes, whole notes, eighth notes, dotted quarter notes, half note triplets, quarter note triplets, you name it, any rhythm. You name it. Now, as far as my right hand technique go, I'm doing what's known as hybrid picking, which is a combination of finger picking with a pick, where your pick basically would replace your thumb when you're finger picking. That's the way I prefer to do it, but you can also play just with your fingers as well, equally as effective. For me, I personally prefer playing this way so I can integrate lines and chords more freely while having a more consistent tone throughout the whole song. And another good thing to do is check out some bass lines. Check out your favorite bass players or who's playing bass in your favorite recordings and really dig into what they're playing and find out what they're doing and how they're connecting the chords. The more we check out bass players, the better our bass lines will be. The second step is to play the chords and the melody at the same time. So I'm going to be doing basically the same thing, except I'm only going to be playing when the chords are changing, and I'm going to be using shell voicings throughout. Now if you don't know what shell voicings are, they're basically a chord with just the root, the third, and the seventh. The reason why we have those 3 notes is because those are the defining notes of the chord and it doesn't have any extra colorations. In this case, the melody will be providing the coloration. You also have the option of doing different reharmonizations that you come up with. If you see my video on reharmonizations, you can check it out and you can apply some of these stuff to the melody we're about to play. So for the purpose of that, I use shell voicings, but you can use any other chords that you know in your vocabulary. The reason why I chose shell voicings is because they're really simple and they're really easy to grab when you're playing the melody as well. You can use any voicings. I personally recommend using 3-note voicings so you have one finger open in order to be able to play the melody. If you watch my video on open triads, you can also use open triads to do the same exact thing. Then you can also begin to use inversions to slowly start to spice up the chord progressions. The last and final step is to add a contrapuntal line. Now for this, you can do many different exercises, but I personally like to keep it a bit free. There's a few ways of doing it. You can play lines at the same time you're playing the melody. You can play counter lines to the melody in the spaces of the melody. And you can also do some combination of all of the previous things we worked on. So I'm gonna give you a little example of that. So with that, things get a little more free. Sometimes when I play a counter line, I like to respond by phrasing the melody line a little differently. But this last step is a lot more organic and a lot more free, and it's closer to what we want to be doing when we're playing solo guitar. Finally, the last part is just combining all these elements, and you can do this as free as you want. So I'm going to show you an example of that and combine all of the elements in my own way. So then a few last considerations. Make sure that you're always practicing this with a metronome. Make sure that you're rhythmically accurate. In fact, playing the first part, the bass line, will actually help out your time feel because you're always going to have that underlying half note pulse. And if you can feel that half note pulse, your time is going to grow a lot stronger. Another thing to note is that sometimes you simply don't have to play anything. Sometimes the melody is enough on its own. And to me, that's been one valuable asset, is recognizing, okay, I have the ability to do all these things, but I don't have to do them all the time. You can also improvise bass lines and do things like trisome substitutions, and you can alter the rhythm of the bass line. So if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing so I can continue making more videos like this. There's a few other videos on my channel where I talk about a lot of things in this nature, so if this stuff interests you, please consider checking out some of those. And like always, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. I do my best to answer all the questions as concisely as possible. So thanks for watching, hope to see you next time.